and hopefully you are now seeing the screen just shift. Jeff, can you confirm that that screen is sharing effectively?
We can see it.
Perfect. So as we addressed in one of the questions there are a number of different kinds of what we call guest travel. The beachhead for Pana and the primary use case that we've focused on as we built our business and established our partnership with Edelman would be recruitment or on-site interviews as it's listed in this slide here. So we focus heavily on that. We've really honed our product to service that use case. But as we've communicated with customers, we've realized that guest travel is more prevalent than simply on-site interviews. Right? We do see interns, we see contractors, we see healthcare professionals as a growing use case for our product. We've then built out small pieces of our product to accommodate each of those different use cases so that that traveler has the experience that you desire them to have and that the trip is recreated at scale accurately and efficiently each time. So when we talk about the value that Pana provides, looking at the left-hand side of the screen here, the first two pillars that we focus on are efficiency and accuracy. Now, in any process, not only guest travel, back and forth is the enemy of efficiency. Going back and forth, having to reiterate, having to correct things like, oh, which flight would you like to take, a priority being stated, and then that flight being booked, not being available any longer when the preference is made, that is the enemy of efficiency, creates redundancy in your process, and we want to eliminate that. Reimbursements process. This is a common pain point for a lot of our clients and a reason that we built out an entire expense and reimbursements tool within our product alongside the travel tool. And then no day of coordination hassles. Again, you have team members managing this travel in many situations who also have other responsibilities. Pana's sole focus is to service this travel. And so on the day of coordination, the day of travel, we want to make sure that resource is there and that we're not disrupting the day of your team to handle one-off coordination issues. Now, when we flip over to the traveler side, we focus entirely on traveler experience, right? We want that traveler to feel supported. In the case of an interview, this is an extremely stressful experience already, and we want the travel to be the least of their concerns. Remembering as well that you've already taken many pains and efforts to get the candidate to this point. You've expended countless hours of time recruiting. You've also had prior interviews before bringing them on site. This person is already very valuable to you and likely at a point where you're looking to sell your company as much as they're willing to sell themselves in the interview. So when we look at the day of travel, we have 24/7 support that is always on and always available. The product is streamlined and professional. It's intuitive. It's easy for them to use. And then we're going to personalize it to your company, not only through branding, but also through the messaging, the policy, and the different offerings that we provide to the traveler. Now, a quick overview of what that looks like. Pana operates on a strictly linear process, right? So we're going to fully manage the travel experience by leveraging a human capability that is supported by a robust technical platform. So we've essentially taken our agent team and we've provided them with all of the latest tools, removing the manual process of things like searching for flights, all of the things you'd like to have automated, but then subjecting them to human review so that when they communicate with the traveler, we maintain that personal touch, right? The first step in that process, in creating the linear process and removing the back and forth and all of the things that make this process cumbersome, is we want to, one, implement all of your policies, rates, vendors, etc. Which, good thing, we've already done that through Edelman. It's a key component of the partnership that we have is we're able to leverage a lot of the work that you've already done. We then want to look at your guest travel program and customize that to a degree that each of these guest travelers is going to have the experience you want. So we'll need to know where they're coming from, where they're going to, and I'll actually show you this in detail as we go through a demonstration in just a moment, but it's good to get an overview of the process. So your coordinators set up the invite. We then coordinate with the actual traveler, providing them with choice, all linear again. And then we add special touches per the use case that you've actually selected. So things like recommending cafes. And we'll show you that in the actual product demo here in a second. Lastly, we do have our reimbursements and expense tool, which allows you to actually fully reimburse things like meals or taxis, Wi-Fi on the plane, anything that would fall outside of your typical air, ground, and hotel. So I'll switch over here. Did my screen just shift? Jeff, can you confirm that it did?
It did.
Perfect. So now we want to dive into the actual experience. Since we have a reasonable amount of time here today, I wanted to actually show you the product and put a little bit of weight behind the words that we can make this a linear, efficient, and accurate process. So what you're looking at here is the Pana dashboard. Now, one of the coordinators who today might be helping to coordinate this travel, maybe they're using some sort of uh, retrofitted booking tool to accommodate this. Maybe they're relying on agent teams. Possibly they're just emailing back and forth with screenshots. That is a person who would log into this tool, right? And we're going to help them manage all of the trips that they have. They'd come in here and they'd simply click invite guest. Now, as I mentioned, we want to help you track where all of this travel is taking place. So we'll allow you to select the use case that the person is traveling for. For today's purposes, we'll select interview, but you'll see the other familiar use cases we mentioned as well. So we'll click interview and we'll click next step. Now, critical pieces here, you'll notice we only require the name and email address for the traveler. There are a couple different reasons for this. One, we're always looking to cut back on data entry because that makes it more efficient for you. This whole form should take about 90 seconds for your coordinator to fill out. Right? The second reason is, especially during a recruitment process, other details like birthday and gender are sensitive. Right? We don't want to expose your recruitment team to those details for liability's sake. So we'll collect those directly from the traveler in a very secure fashion. So only name and email here. The next fields are custom. So you can have as few or as many of these as you would like. We will also auto-validate them based on alphanumeric characters. So we can have a drop-down, we can have data entry. We can also have other fields that pop up in correlation to these. And again, as few or as many as you'd like. Important detail being they will be attached throughout the life of the trip and present in all reporting that you have following the Pana experience. So that will populate into your Edelman reporting and allow you to track accordingly. The last field on this screen is pertaining to groups. Now, different groups, whether this is an executive group, different departments, they may have different travel privileges. They may also have different approvers, if that is needed, or different payment methodologies. So if I change this from default to training, you'll notice all of those fields change. The quality of travel is going to be important, as later on, we will set defaults in the invite per this group to be sure that things are consistent. Once all of those fields are selected, you simply click next. We then need the point of origin and the destination. We will again preload common destinations for travel to cut back on data entry time and also for accuracy. We'll say this group is going, or this traveler is going to headquarters. You can also input an address manually. And then we'll ask for the time of the first interview, in this case, and the ending of the last interview. And on the right-hand side, we're actually in real time referencing flights that respect your policy, rates, preferred vendors, active inventory that you could actually purchase. So these are not estimates. These are actual flights. Now, one thing that we have set up in the demo here just to demonstrate is in this account, the criteria are actually very stringent. So we've gone ahead and said, well, there are actually no flights available matching the criteria given the policies that you've provided to us, right? If I bump that up, we should see things correct, or you're able to allow more layovers. We'll also take into account the travel time from the airport to the destination so we know the individual is going to get there on time. From there, you can click next. This is simply a reiteration of all of the different fields that we can cover. So are we going to cover the cost of their flight? Are we going to cover the cost of a place to stay? And are we going to cover ground transportation? These are the fields that can be, these are the items that can be centrally billed back through Pana, completely avoiding reimbursement and respective of your policy. One field I like to point out in particular is ground transportation. We do have a unique integration with Uber and Lyft, in which we're able to offer a one-click voucher that populates to the individual's app, and all payment will then flow through Pana as well. So there are no longer any receipts needed for Uber and Lyft rides. We can also subject that to policy on your end, whether that's the number of trips, a set dollar amount per ride or in total, and then geographic location. So maybe only rides from home to the airport and airport to home or to the office, so that you know a person is not joyriding all over town on your dollar. So we'll show you a little bit more of that as we switch over to the traveler experience here in a second. And then lastly, you simply need to select, would you like us to handle reimbursements for those meals or taxis or Wi-Fi, or would you not? That'll impact the traveler experience, obviously. So once all these fields are selected, and again, these are usually just a click through. Most of the time, these are set to the default that you've established with that group. And so you simply look and you say, great, we're covering all these things, wonderful, and you click next. The last screen here is a simply detailed summary of the trip you've created. So all of the things we're going to cover, the flights, timing, and destinations, and then one more field for any special considerations for this traveler. We've seen at times maybe a wheelchair needed at the gate or special meal considerations if it's a longer flight, things like they are gluten-free. So from there, your coordinator would select invite, and their portion of the trip, the vast majority of the time, is complete. We'll have all the information we need to go ahead and coordinate the trip with the traveler and take it from there. Now, once the coordinator hits invite, we're able to then send an email to the email address we were given, the copy of which is the same as you see on the right-hand side of the screen here. In that email, there is a big blue button that says View Options. And after reading the text, which simply introduces us to them as Pana, congratulating them on the travel that they're having with your company for whatever reason that might be. Again, this copy is customizable per use case. They will click that big blue button and automatically be authenticated into this platform. No need to create a profile themselves. They'll be brought in here. And the first thing we're going to ask them to do is select a flight. So they'll come down and we will by default present them with 5 flight tiles. One thing you won't notice are prices. Again, at this point, this is the traveler experience. So we're interfacing with the traveler, and we want this to be the best experience possible to make sure they're extremely impressed with how your company operates, right? So we remove the prices because these are already within budget and within policy. So they can go through and select the tile that makes the most sense for them. If no good options exist in the first 5, they could select our flight search option, in which case we'll show them all of the flights available that are within your policy and within the timing that we need. Now, once they come down and they select book, they'll be presented with this screen here. And this is where we're going to gather all of the critical details for travel. Gender, birthday, phone number. We can collect passport or known traveler number, also loyalty numbers for points, but also for mobile boarding, right? They'll give us those details here in a secure fashion, save their profile. They can select any sort of seat preferences that they might have, and then they would complete their booking. Now, once the flight is booked, we understand when they're going to be coming in, how many nights they need to be staying, so we can go ahead and coordinate the hotel. We'll send them all their critical details for the flight, obviously, and then we'll reference a pre-established preference list of hotels or vendors that you've given to Pana. Oftentimes, that can look like a hierarchy of hotels in a certain area. In this case, we have New York, and we're looking at different hotels that if a certain hotel is under $500, we will book there. Otherwise, we'll go to the second in the list and book a room in that hotel instead. We will take care of all of the credit card validation and verification needs with the hotel. We leverage a virtual card process and actually have our agent team call twice before check-in and once after to ensure that the virtual card we provide them is used and to avoid, in any instance, the traveler having to pay for that hotel. Once the hotel is booked or is coordinated, we will also reference the per diem information that they have for